Good afternoon. Welcome to the Commissioner Budget Meeting this afternoon. If you will join me for a moment of silent prayer, please. Amen. To the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well,
Commissioners, I'm happy to report that your budget books are at your places. As I stated before, a copy of the budget books will be kept in the clerk's office in compliance with North Carolina general statutes. Having said that, I would like to proceed with budget discussions and move through the budget as it's designed in the book. So if you want to go through the budgets one by one, you can do that. If you have certain questions about certain departments, you can certainly ask as we go through, if that suits.
that's it, y'all. We'll just ask questions as we go through.
Is that in a different order than this sheet? This,
No,
But the correct numbers are in the book.
notes.
That's fine.
Find correct numbers.
the updated number.
The updated numbers.
Okay, so this was not,
It wasn't completely done.
okay,
And that's the reason you didn't have books, your complete books at the last.
okay, thank you.
So we'll start with revenues. As you can see, the current, and I'll just hit the highlights as we go through. Current year ad valorem tax revenues are expected to be $11,018,486. That's based off the valuation, county valuation, plus the current tax rate that we have this year, so no tax increase.
Do I recall that Thomas said that the ratio of sales to evaluations was running like 94–95%? You recall that?
That's correct.
So what we've done by postponing reevaluation by 2 years is we are not capturing a potential income or revenue income of, let's say, 5% or 5%.
That's
Is
correct.
that fair?
NCBTS tax collections, $1,697,270 is expected. That information was gathered from the NCBTS website and their protections off of registrations, car tax registrations.
So that's why it's so much more than it was.
That's correct.
What is the actual from last year? Do you have any idea yet?
So you want to keep going and
Yes, keep
watch you get
That's
that.
fine.
Article 40 and 42, half-cent restricted sales tax. It's $1,044,129. As I told the board many times, the Board of Educational request or allocation for $465,000 will be allotted to the Board of Education for capital. It comes out of this unrestricted sales tax money. So that's paid out of this. And in addition to that, the $560,000 capital payment for the Bartley Yancey High School is paid out of that money. I think if you look at your manager's recommendation, and the $560,000 payment, you add those together, it comes up to $1,041,000.
Most of these revenue lines have increased
They have.
a bunch.
They have, and this is using the state's data to determine what we actually should get in. I know this past year, in the Article 4042 unrestricted sales tax or restricted sales tax, we it looks like there was budgeted $778,000. We actually received $1,041,000. Isn't that correct? Somewhere around that. Yeah. So, yeah, we're budgeting a lot closer to actual. I think this year we have. I'm not going to go over every line, but if I skip a line you have questions on, please don't hesitate to ask. Building permits and fire inspections, we do have.
Sorry, there was no numbers on the fire unrestricted for last year, because that's new, or, sorry,
Fire unrestricted.
first page.
Oh, fire unrestricted.
I think that's new, correct?
Yes, that is.
Thank you.
Building permits and fire inspections, you'll see an increase in revenue in that line. We do have three major projects that are going to occur, we believe, in this upcoming year. One with the $30,000 permit fee, one with the $60,000 permit fee, and the other one we expect to be close to a $30,000 permit. So we look forward to those projects occurring and the economic development that will result as a part of those projects. Sheriff inmate housing, U.S. Marshal Services is estimated to be $420,000, misdemeanor revenue $200,000, inmate housing $80,000, and the DPS backlog is $10,000 for a total of $710,000 revenue from the sheriff's office or from the detention center. Excuse me. EMS.
Sorry. On page 2, sheriff services. There's something for last year, but nothing for this year, is that correct?
Yes.
On page 2.
Bottom of page 2. Yes, that's correct. The town of Yanceyville Sheriff's Services, the town of Yanceyville contracted with the sheriff's office to have a deputy in Yanceyville. And I believe they discontinued that for this year. The GCC Governor's Crime Commission Sheriff Investigator, that was a grant funded position and for last year. And I don't think that grant was received this year or maybe even available. And I'm moving on to EMS at the bottom of the page. We're anticipating $927,000 in revenue.
Less than last year. As many calls as we seem to be running.
Yep. we have?
Is there do you know if there's a reason we're receiving less revenue? Are people not paying their bills, or are we using too many outside agencies to run calls?
No, I think I don't necessarily believe any of that's the reason for it. I don't believe people are not paying their bills. Obviously, there's some of that. I believe when Mr. Lynch went through and formalized his budget, that he looked at the number for revenues provided to him through the billing service, and he anticipates the 927.
Like it's the cost of settlement that went down.
What's that?
Cost-
The cost of settlement is really the only thing that went down.
That's the Medicare
EMS
cost of.
Medicaid cost settlement.
But even if North Carolina, which they're almost doing, expands Medicaid in North Carolina, is that cost settlement gonna go back up? Because as a bill, it only has one more reading to be passed.
It very well could.
Okay.
It very well could. Parks and Recreation, we're looking at $40,000 in revenue. For our cats program, we're anticipating $162,164 in revenue from rope and E&D grants.
Okay, I'd like to go back to the previous page, economic development, where there's only one figure in and that's membership fees. Went from 7,200 to 60 and everything else is zero. What, did you just combine something or what happened there?
No, the DRF operating funds, those are funds that we request each year. It was a grant. And basically, it was a 3-year operating grant. The facility now is self-sustaining, as I've said before, in commissioners' meetings. So it's not that we won't request that money at some point in time. It's that we need to figure out the programming elements of what we're going to use it for first. And we don't know, without knowing those, we don't know how much.
So there could be income coming.
There could be.
If we apply for it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, this shows rental fees 60 last year, but zero this year.
Rental fees, right. We're still operating in a pandemic. There were no rental fees. I would imagine that that's probably close, that may be a typo.
I believe she combined the fees just to 60,000.
Put the 60,000
That was the
into
only
one
thing she
line
had.
lower. maybe.
Listed. I think it should be all three of those. I think it's all three of those fees together. That's what she's expecting.
All three of the fees together that were about 70 and she's reduced it to 60.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Here again, through the pandemic, we had no rentals of the facilities to speak of.
Just an observation here. There's more ARPA money coming in to the region, to my council. And there might be something coming up available for economic development. You just have to keep, be on alert to look out for it.
Okay. As I said previously, Parks and Recreation, 40,000. CATS road funding and E&D grant, $162,000. We have the rental income from the post office, Guilford Mills and ASC, 56,000. ABC board profits, 15,000. Senior center revenues, $282,585. And then a transfer from the other funds, and you'll see that's the revenue replacement category. That's $3,646,288 as the budget stands now. You reduce expenses, that number falls, and we don't have to appropriate that as much. So, and as you can see, the last line is appropriated fund balance, and you see nothing in appropriated fund balance. So there's no fund balance and no tax increase associated with the recommended budget. Any questions on the revenue portion?
I'm assuming,
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'm assuming the CATS transportation grant thing, that's an enterprise, so that's hers.
That's right.
She budgeted that. Is that correct?
Correct.
For that, so when we get over, your budget will equal this number, or it's included in
It's
that?
included.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had was interest on investments. We went from 45,000 interest last year to 0 this year.
Yeah, no, I think there'll be some interest on our investments. But at this point in time, we're not exactly sure what the budget is.
Do we know what we've gotten thus far? If you don't, you can just get back with me later. That'll be fine.
Yes. I think that's it.
And the ABC board profits. Aren't they higher than 15? I think thus far this year, we've gotten 20,689 already. Just what I've been.
Give me just a minute. I'm sorry, I thought I had that.
That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. I was told last year we got 26,084, and thus far this year we've got 26,89. That's okay.
So at the bottom of this page, there's no comparison between last year's budget and this year's budget. I did my own that comes up with, the revenue is up about $1.753 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
Said that off.
So it's up how much?
$1,752,805 is what I calculated. Maybe Melissa could verify that.
I'll add that for you.
Thank you. And at a glance, good chunk of that, half of it, comes from the unrestricted school money. 1/2, 1 cent, 2.5 cents. And the rest comes from a little bit of property tax, vehicle tax, sales and use tax. That's for most of it. Everything else tends to be kind of small. That is excluding the appropriated fund balance from last year, so I can pull that out. Make a better comparison. Pulled out that fund
Pull out
balance.
that, yeah.
Wait, go on. Don't-
Yeah.
Yeah, move along.
So moving through the expenses portion of the budget, you have major governmental funds, governing body, administration, finance, tax, election, registered deeds, information technology, maintenance, public buildings, fleet management, and non-departmental. Start with the governing bodies, budget. Are there any questions about the governing bodies budget?
Not that budget particular, but as we go through this, it's helpful to know, how much did our health insurance go up?
Health insurance went up, it's basically $120 per person per year.
I think it's useful as we go through this, when we see budgets that are higher, we got to remember that it includes the raise or salary study inflation plus the cost of longevity, retirement, and health insurance.
You say health insurance went up $120 per person?
Per year. That's about $40,000, 38 to 40,000. Are there any questions about the administration?
Have you put together kind of a summary analysis of these categories and the differences, like health insurance, salaries, et cetera, that would kind of give us an overview? Am I being clear on that?
So the under and over, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, on some of these broad categories that are present throughout virtually all the departments.
I haven't done it exactly like you're asking for it. I can do that. I'm happy to do
Is
that.
that easy to do? We
Well, I don't know that it's easy to do, but it's doable. And we can definitely do it.
And it's just like Commissioner Massey said on salaries, these salary component items, salaries, FICA, et cetera. If we could just have a broad overview of totals of those.
Okay. Certainly do that. Do you like that? Yeah. Are there any questions on the administrative budget?
Would be helpful if these pages were numbered.
Finance.
So no questions on administration, we'll do it fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad. Contracted services, is that broken down anywhere? Because contracted services, we've already contracted with, some CPAs, but is that not included in this figure?
That is not included in that figure.
Okay,
Would it be, should it be, could it be?
And not at this point. It should be. If you want to appropriate another $45,000 to put in that category, we can certainly do that. And then we don't have to have it approved by. Well, I would still have to bring it back to.
no, that wasn't what I was asking. I just didn't know, it's this year's that we've already appropriated that much.
That's correct.
Okay, then,
And just for clarification, though, that wasn't a new appropriation.
sure,
We said all along, we thought we were going to be able to do that with the money that you currently had budgeted.
okay.
So that would be handled with transfers. Transfers.
Right, and I just have a question about contracted services on everybody's.
Okay.
I'd like it costs $12.23, but what contracted services are we talking about? And that would be my main,
So you want that for all departments?
because all of it got contracted services. There was one that went sky high,
Right,
one that went way out of the moon.
it is. There was, the tax department went in $28,000, I think.
But
So do you need Mr. Bernard to come up here? Tell us why it went way out of sight? I mean,
Well,
I don't mean nothing bad about it, but we brought in new software and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
so-
I think when we get to the point where we've gone through this and we still have questions, we could ask, and Brian said he could do that, we could ask each individual department head.
'Cause I know that contracted services went up to 70-something.
Yeah, I know.
So what you're asking for is just a brief description of what that service, what that might apply, what function.
Or
What
what
did
it
it-
possibly could be used for. They may not have to
What are they
use it.
budgeting?
Yeah, what are they budgeting it for? That's kind of all I want.
I have the same question on the 5,500. Should that number not be bigger? Or are you anticipating you'll be able to juggle the funds and pay for it otherwise? Or
But we don't know
understand
what
why
we're
we're
paying,
not budgeting?
but we don't know what we're paying for.
Well, we do for the finance department.
Not 5,500, we don't.
Yeah, that won't be anywhere near enough.
no, it's
We upped
budgeted
it to
at 15,500.
Budgeted what?
15,500.
So that number's changed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going off my sheet. It's got all
Sorry, I was
my
wrong.
questions on it.
Well-
Sorry, my bad.
But it's
Okay, now I
15
really got a question.
15 grand won't buy 3 days, will it?
Commissioners, we'll be happy to take as much money in contracted services as you'd like to give us.
I'm not trying,
Majority of ours will be.
God knows I'm
municipal.
not trying to be cute here, but what I'm saying is, this is budgeting, right? And what you put in the budget is what you think you're gonna need to operate. Do you think you're gonna need more than 15,500 in contract services to patch up, deal with the?
Yes, we'll adjust that number for the next budget session.
Just gonna suggest on some of these, we've got staff here, they know what it is, just ask them.
I think the majority of the 15.5 will be us getting Munis support and support getting things straight.
And will that be enough? For all of next year, starting July 1,
Probably not.
then that number ought to be put up. Bigger.
We'll take whatever you will approve.
We're not here to hand out Christmas presents. What we need to know is what you need to operate
Right.
We'll adjust that number for the next budget session.
with what you think you're gonna need.
Yes.
Question on finance. Small tools and equipment. Got $3 grand this What is small tools?
Printers, staplers,
Mouse, calculators,
keyboards.
monitors.
I've been trying for the last 20 years to get that term small tools out of there.
Right.
All the finance officers before her changed.
We can change it.
I know you can.
We don't have, what would you like it changed to?
So I do equipment or something. Small tools.
Equipment,
Small tools is
office
misleading.
equipment, would that be good? Office equipment?
Yeah.
We country folk, when we see tools, we
I
think the
know,
cameras,
I know.
wires,
Yeah, all you
and
men.
the shovels.
Well, in,
Oh, you men,
in maintenance, it probably is small tools.
it probably is.
But it also,
Finance, I don't think you're buying a lot of impact wrenches.
But
You
most
never
of, most of these departments have a listing for small tools.
Yep.
If you notice.
What I'm thinking is, what you ought to do is there a difference between small tools and equipment and supplies for finance? Probably not.
We have general office supplies.
That's like the
Just the
sticky
papers
notes,
and-
pens, that kind of stuff.
That goes in supplies. And that's what you're
Office.
budgeting for small tools and equipment, ought to go in supplies.
No,
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 just so do it. I like
Office
office
equipment.
equipment.
Okay.
Yep.
For the
For small
appropriate
tools.
departments.
yes, right.
Yep.
Right,
Don't
Some
change
departments will
maintenance to
Yeah,
office
maintenance,
equipment,
yeah,
where it should say
but
so.
they need small tools.
we got it.
but you need to add, a line
Charge
to
of
maintenance
For office equipment.
for office equipment,
Correct. We done it.
Need to change your,
because maintenance also has staplers and printers. What,
Nothing.
tax department?
My big question was, once again, why those contracted services went up as high as they. To the tax department.
So, we did speak to
Go ahead.
we did speak to our tax director about that this morning. I asked him to come up and meet with the finance department. He met with Melissa Miller, and you want to tell them what came out of your conversation?
Yeah, we had discovered that the line item professional foreclosures last year was budgeted for 98,000.
Right.
However, there was another line that they were paying for it out of. So the $98,000 was just sitting there, not used, still had a $98,000 balance. So the wrong account was being used to pay it. So we are moving the money to the right account, paying it from the right account. And so we basically had an extra $98,000 that we took out of his, because his budget was $635,000. And then he came down, we combined, if you look at your old sheet and this sheet, he combined all of the professional services. So now he just has foreclosures, because that needs to be separate, because it's an in and out account. And then professional services billings, well, that billing's gonna come off of there, just professional services, that's all of his other ones. And he brought that down to 100,000.
And define his professional services.
That is South data, the GIS system. Loop, yeah, copier services. I can get you a list, but that's just some of it. He came down a lot off of that professional services and just put it at the 100,000.
which would have included professional services, contracted services, and professional services.
Yeah, we're at that.
Billing,
Yes, and the
Which-
GIS, all those separate ones. There was like 4 or 5 different professional services.
computer software.
Yes, and we combined all of them, and we were able to get it down to 570 versus 635.
so that the change from 40,000 to 100,000 is actually,
That's all there's, yeah, that, I wouldn't pay
Change in
attention to that 40,000
structure.
because we lumped them all together.
Professional services was about 140,000 according to this.
Yeah.
The old one. And he brought it down to 100. Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
Okay. But you left the 98 in foreclosures.
Yeah, because that's what they guesstimate that comes in and we pay out. So it needs to be in a line by itself because it takes care of itself.
But it wasn't being done that way.
but it's been adjusted to 75,000.
Yeah, he felt that it could come down.
Very good. I'm with
As usual, Nate's letting us draw the fire.
No, it's not that. Some of that, the foreclosures and all of that, some of it I understand because we've been doing it that way for years.
I should have said Nate's letting.
But it hadn't been coming out of the right account evidently
Correct,
for years.
correct.
It's coming out of the wrong account. And there again, we got small tools.
We're gonna just blanket small tools on all departments.
All right, I didn't know if that meant.
We'll set that straight.
Maybe the tax department uses rubber hammers.
It's office equipment.
Look at me like,
I'm just ready to move on.
come on, it's starting.
Elections.
I would assume since this board included additional money for restroom facilities, portable restrooms, it's still in this budget as well.
Yes. I believe that's part of the equipment.
Equipment, yeah.
Small tools and equipment.
Come on, guys.
Store.
Mr. Mahoney, you said portable bathroom? Is that what we're trying for?
That's what we gave them money to do where they could not, if they could not use the restrooms at the facility they were at. To make sure that we had restrooms available.
They could move.
Huh?
They could move.
Well, I think they ended up using the ones at Casville. That was maybe where part of the problem was, but well, I did not see any rented facilities there on election day. So I'm assuming that they used the ones that were there by the office. So if we give them money too, remember exactly how much we did give.
5,000, but I'd have to go back and look. But I do know that, and the reason the election laws that I've seen, and I had a discussion, I can't remember if it was Robert or somebody else. There has to be a door, a physical door that separates the restroom facility from where people actually vote. Now, like in Pelham, there's not. There has to be a door between where they, because they're standing in line waiting to come and use the restrooms. So that, Lord forbid, somebody would do some electioneering while they're going to the restroom, I guess. But I think that's the statute in that, and I have to look back, I've got it somewhere.
Well, I understand and know that the rules can be strict. But it's easier to build a door than to spend $5,000 every year or so to correct the problem. It's also easier just to move the polling place. There's no law that says polling places have to stay where they are. And they've been some been moved over the years.
What is their contracted service? Printing material or is that printing's down here, but when they come to do it, contracted services.
Software, probably.
And we'll have those lists for you.
Okay.
Moving on to the register of deeds office. As you can see, other than salaries, are substantially the same. Hearing no
Now,
question.
Did you tell us that the health insurance was $120 per person per year?
Yes,
Okay, now, under their health insurance,
it's increased
Increased it.
$120.
oh, that's.
We currently pay close to $2 million a year in health insurance.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I just was mixing up.
Right. So moving on to information technology.
Capital outlay.
Capital outlay, our director has formulated a plan to come up, to change out all of the old computers that we have and change those out on, is it 3 or 4 year rotating schedule?
Yes.
One of the two, 3 or 4 year rotating schedule. We have computers that the county is currently using that are old operating systems that don't work and you can't even buy the repairs for anymore. So he plans on changing out 75 of those computers, not monitors, just computers. Not monitors, was all of them, some monitors will have to be changed. But the computers, and forming a rotating schedule would change out those computers.
There is a detailed list. It's like 2 pages back after the budget showing exactly what he was requesting for capital outlay. Each was the 125.
Any of the departments that submitted supplemental information with their budget, we have included that behind their work budget sheets so that you can see exactly what they're asking for, if they submitted it. If they didn't, we don't have it.
Yeah,
Is
Yes.
there a reason they wouldn't present it?
Or if they do, it has zeros or it's blank.
Once again, what's contracted service?
I can tell you for this one, yes, I'm prepared. Comcast, you want me to list them? Because he gave it to me.
Sure. That's fine.
Comcast, Lumen, Techabyte, the email service, wireless access service, firewall, and Mitel. And just Mitel itself is $60,000 a year. That's our phone system. Just the phones, Mitel.
So it went from 20,000 to 152,000?
No, it didn't. The other thing our IT department is planning on doing moving forward, beginning in this year's budget, is they're going to take all of the telephone, expense and run it through their department. They're going to take all of the internet expense, such as Comcast, so on and so forth, and run it through their department, with the exception of 911. He doesn't need to handle that. Our IT guy doesn't need to handle that. We need to leave that in our 911 directors. But he's going to take all of that and run it through his department. so he can better manage the contract, so he can better manage the service. You know, Ashley did a great job for several years doing our phone system. Now she's transitioned into more of a finance role. She doesn't have time to fill those calls, make those changes, contact reps. So we want to try to run that through IT.
Probably a great idea, but had the departments reduce their telephone monies that they were spending?
No, that's not, we did not.
We did not do that yet.
that. So a lot of these conversations that we had started just days ago about this occurring. And Melissa, to her credit, asked me this morning, do you want me to remove all those? I said, no, I don't. Leave them in there for now. We'll fix them by the end of the budget process. We'll get a total and, you know, we'll fix that. But realistically, given the pressures that they were under to get the books ready today and have them today, I didn't feel like it was an effective use of time to go through and remove all.
So we would anticipate there's roughly $100,000 worth of costs that will come out of.
Every line that says telecommunications, except for 911.
From a management standpoint, I can understand information technology, even overseas. From a cost accounting standpoint, it does not give you an accurate cost by department.
Okay.
I would anticipate it could be broken down per department.
When we pay it,
Yeah, yeah,
the billing,
I expect it can be.
they do,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
billing currently will go, it goes out to the departments, but the centralized billing statement will break everything down by department.
You'll get a list by telephone or whatever.
From what I was hearing, talking about reducing the budgets in the department. So if you cost it to the departments, then you're gonna have line items overspent. Because there's no budget there.
Well, it would be cost to
It's gonna be cost to IT.
Or we would increase.
That's
this
right.
They'll cost to IT, not to the department.
That's my point. If you cost it to IP, to our information technology, it will not give you an accurate cost per department. So let's say if you're doing an indirect cost report, or you have to do something else by department, it won't be accurate. Because your information technology cost won't be there.
Want to be broken down? It will be broken down per department.
Yeah.
I think I understand what
It's
Mr.
gonna be
Hall,
broken down, but it won't be in your
I
budget.
understand what Mr. Hall's saying, and he's right. He's right about, putting together a cost report that we have to submit to the state that we may receive reimbursement for. So, that's a good point, thank you.
Because that was gonna be my question, like with cats, I can get 85% reimbursement on Comcast and on Montel. But if I was still able to get like a report, showing our part, just something to still send in, and it sounds like you said y'all still could.
And two, for transparency, I think we need to probably leave that in the departmental budgets too. I don't mind IT overseeing,
And he just has to use the
but
department.
for transparency, because you don't want DSS, who has 60-some employees, paying $40 a month for internet and a department. I'm not picking on departments, but you say the planning department, who has one employee paying $500 a month for internet. So I think it's important that we look at those things. Thank you for pointing that.
But you can do that with transfers within the budget process.
Now with transfers, you could do it with journal entries.
Yeah.
But that's more paperwork. Why don't you do paperwork when you got a system?
That's not
Once
the
we get it
clean
in
way.
place.
That's not the clean auditing way to do it. It'd be best to pay it out of the department codes. Is the cleanest way.
And have the summarized statement go to IT. A summarized statement.
I tell you, the salaries have gone up quite a bit. Is that due to the raises?
Some of it, yes.
Some of them.
Yes, if you look on the page behind that, you'll see there's a request for a new position. And that new position is $31,200. And it's the help desk person. Basically. So while our current staff and director are fielding and working on the issues in the field, this person can field calls coming in from the departments and take care of some of those issues through those calls, but also reroute and make some determination on the urgency and get those to the director.
So you want to add a position.
Yes, it's an added position. And here again, we'll go over those in a list similar to how we went over those last year.
How much did you say that salary was?
$31,200.
Yeah. I see it. I see 31.
Yeah, it went up.
I see it on Thursday.
So 132.85. From the 86.95. Went up to 90, now 132.
So, moving on to maintenance.
All things are good.
Hammers, wrenches, and screwdrivers.
Very good.
Capital outlay,
Capital outlay,
is that the next sheet?
yeah,
Yes, he has included a breakdown, and then it's so thick because he did a really good job and included quotes for absolutely everything that he has listed on the first page.
Yep. See that,
And pictures.
that looks like what every department should give us, to be quite honest.
and truthfully, commissioners, I'd looked at this and thought that maybe we could get by another year or two on paving. But after a closer inspection, I'm not sure we can. I know our 911 center is going to have to be paid. I know our Guilford Mills desperately needs paving. Guilford Mills is a little different. In that, I don't think paving's, I think paving's a Band-Aid for that. I think it's gonna take something more substantial than just paving for Guilford Mills. But in front of our EMS station, you need to pave right in front of Parks and Rec, where the apron for the driveway meets the road, can be paved at the same time EMS's parking lots paved. Also, we have 2 gravel areas located at CATS that are problematic in several different ways for the drivers going in and out. So we would have them pave those areas as well at the same time.
And I'd like to make a kindly suggestion that the parking lots be taken care of over the years. My parking lot's 40+ years old, and I reseal it
Yeah,
every X number of years.
so the parking lots that we have this year that we're not suggesting repaving, like the health department's parking lot, the SS parking lot, even a little bit in Cat's parking lot. You can see where The pavement is cracking. There's some joints that are going to need to be fixed. There's currently some grass growing up through those, and those will be, that grass will be killed later on in the summer. But they really need to be, cracks need to be cleaned out. They need to be sealed or
Filled
with filler to level them out and then sealed over top of.
Question. Under electricity and maintenance, it was 51.45, and now it's 75. Is that for everything, or is that just,
That's for the Guilford Mills complex. Right, Melissa?
so it takes $75,000 a year, Will, for the electricity at Guilford side?
I mean, yeah, it's a pretty big building.
It just seems like it went up a bunch from 45. What we allotted, 21, 22.
I can make a note, we can ask.
Let's start cutting the lights off, folks.
One of the things that I think might be educational for the board is to look at the electrical costs for all the buildings. I suggested that some years ago in the courthouse, when we were having problems, we were running the air conditioner and the heat at the same time. And rather than fix the problem, then we could chuckle, the board, in its infinite wisdom, decided that we could afford it. And so they just let it go on. And the same thing about some of these parking lots. I'm just giving you the history. Because the questions and comments you're raising are very good. But the board has this information. And it would be interesting to see what the electrical bill for each building is. Because we may want to go in another direction. It's time for us to start upgrading our use of electricity and everything for the county. And we have some other options. But we need to find out what it's costing, not doing it.
Right. Then the other question I've got on vehicle services and repair, it's only $1,800 and it comes down from $34.58. Is that because of new vehicles or why?
Well, I imagine that's because we
Lease
didn't,
vehicle?
we didn't use 3458 last year.
Probably use,
I mean, it was 1,800. This current year, it's 1,800,
Right,
budgeted at 1,800.
right.
You're talking about 2 budget years ago that it was 3458, and that's 3,458. So it basically got cut in half
Because he didn't use it.
because it wasn't used.
Right. And janitorial supplies, it come down. So is that the same feeling, same token? It come down from the 41,807 down to 3580.
Yeah,
So
but
you
here
didn't
again, that
use-
was 2 budget years ago.
You didn't use that amount of money, so you dropped it.
Right.
Okay,
In this current fiscal year, we dropped it.
right. That's what I'm saying. You dropped it. Because you didn't use that amount of money. Very good.
That's right.
on
So-
the capital outlay, it's at 223. But unless I did my math wrong, his detail sheet adds up to 198,085. Which is right. Or is there a slush?
No, there's no slush. There's no slush.
I don't mean that in a negative way. Is there a provision being included in there for an unknown capital outlay, basically?
Well, they always have, things go wrong throughout the year.
That's
So there's the projects that we currently have that would be capital outlay. And those are listed and they do total 198. The rest of it is about $25,000
for
that the board
unknown.
usually sets aside. You can see last year it was 24,800. you went through the budget last year and I itemized which capital projects you wanted to undertake.
Right.
And they were allocated, but they weren't put back in capital, in the capital line. That's why it's only 24,800 for last year.
I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure my supposition was correct.
How many trucks does maintenance run?
So they have an F-250, a Ford Ranger, they have a Chevy 1500. They also have an ambulance, a retrofitted ambulance with a flatbed on it.
And my question for that is, we only went up $1,000 on gas. Don't take long to spend $1,000 for that many trucks, much less the 5,000 gas. I mean, we don't know what gas is gonna be. But I think it'll be more than $1,000 extra. Just an observation.
Thank you.
Interior security doors in the ag building, can we, what does that mean?
So in an effort to, with political climate we've seen in recently with the increased number of school shootings, with all of those things combined, I think the folks in the ag building would like to feel a little bit more secure rather than be just open up to the public to where anyone can walk in at any time and do or say anything that they would like to. I know that there's been some incidents at that building that prompted me to meet with them, prompted the quote that was received. So I think those doors are necessary.
No problem whatsoever with it. Is that just the exterior doors that you're talking about?
No, it's not really. It's not the exterior doors.
Okay.
So what it is much like you see we put in the courthouse, where you walk in and you've got a separation where people can come inside. They have to stand, notify you that they're there, or you see them and then greet them, and if they need to come back, you take them back. So it's not exterior doors. It just,
They can still get in the building?
they can get in the building, but they can't get past that level of security.
Just like in the corner. You walk in that front door, but then you got that partition with the security door in there. That's always open.
That's my point. That's my point. We're always there. I'm just wondering why would not be the exterior doors that would be the security doors versus
Well,
what you got in front of your office?
so they deal with the public just like we do.
Sure.
Just like many of our departments do. And as a general rule, they don't take kindly to being left outside in the rain. And, you know, we wanted to provide a mechanism where they could at least get inside the building. And I think that separation there will at least afford them the opportunity if something were to happen, that they could make a phone call, they could call the sheriff's office, something of that nature.
I have no problem with their security, none whatsoever. I just want to know if that was the right security.
Yeah, I believe so. And going over it with their director and the other departments in that building, they all believe so too.
Okay.
You don't have to wait to be recognized.
I mean, because two of us was.
What? One of you, go ahead. Go ahead.
If we're gonna do that, something like that, my concern in the courthouse is that bulletproof glass?
No, it's not.
AR-15 will take it down, like my shotgun will take it down.
That's what I was getting to.
Yeah, and I understand that.
So it's a false security.
It's, well, in some ways, you're right, but someone's bound and determined to do something like that. They're gonna find a way to do something like that, regardless of what kind of security that we have, unless we have an officer at every door, and then it could very well possibly happen anyway.
If I'm gonna hear that first shot, I'd rather it be them trying to shoot through the window than shooting in my door where I'm sitting.
Yeah, and there's actually a psychology behind partitions. Just from a psychological standpoint, it's harder for someone to, if they see a person, it's easier for them to shoot at a person than through anything and at the person. Just psychologically, it hinders them from being able to do that. One of the first things that they teach in active shooter classes is, if you're in that situation and you've got a newspaper on your desk, hold the newspaper up in front of it. That newspaper's not going to affect you at all, but psychologically it affects the person holding it.
Well, if that person is crazy, it don't matter. So I keep in my point here, let's not do something that's a false security for all of the employees. When you get these folks that do stuff like that, they're kind of off balance. So they may not even see the person, they just come in and shoot.
Yeah.
And if I get upset and I get off balance, and I know my shotgun will double off butts, I'm just gonna come in and blow all of that stuff out of the way. And that's what these crazies are doing.
Well, I understand the point.
All I want is just reconsider. I don't want to blame for the point. Just reconsider how we handle security.
Let's go back to Guilford Mills a minute, because we said that the electricity amount included Guilford Mills. And then 3 lines later, we have Guilford Mill Utilities. What am I missing? $15,000.
So it was $35,000.
Right.
So that's been reduced from 35,000 to 15,000. So you see 20,000 of that is, I believe, moved to electricity. Yeah. And along with that, there's, the firearm systems, there's a lot of other utilities with Guilford Mills that.
Okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Does anybody need to take a break? Go ahead, Mr. Hall, you got a question?
Another observation, because I raised this one over the years. Utilities include water, right? We pay a huge water bill here in Capital County. That's something we need to look at by building also. But what really bothers me, we're buying our own water. The town is just processing it and selling it back to us. So at the minimum, we should get a lesser rate for it. And this is for the commissioners that may not be aware that we are buying our own water. We move on.
Does anybody need to take a break? If you do, let's do it. If you don't, we'll keep going. Everybody's fine, let's go.
So moving forward,
Let me just say, kudos to whoever did this maintenance.
Yeah.
I won't be on here next budget meeting, but I'd like for each department head to be asked or required or whatever it takes
That
to
was
send
BJ.
something like that.
That was BJ Powell.
BJ did a heck of a good job. Everybody ought to be able to do this. Now, thank you.
health building, Welcome Center, operations. Fleet management. Non-departmental,
All of a sudden, the salary study pops up, and that's in several other places.
yeah, the manager's recommendation is 0.
Since I'm new, what does non-departmental mean?
It means it just relates to every department we have, or the majority of the departments, so it's not specific to any one department. So health insurance for retirees, for example, you know, that's out of all different departments.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, moving on to major governmental funds, public safety, sheriff, detention center, school resource officer, 911 communications, building inspections, coroner, medical examiner, emergency management, emergency medical services, and animal control.
I haven't seen Sheriff Durden in a while, so have we gotten our cars yet?
No, we're still missing 2.
Okay.
How many cars do we have total involved in? Lease cars to the service,
Lease cars to the sheriff's office.
or new, last couple, 3 years, new cars, since we started
It's
this.
two different questions. How many cars total, and then how many new lease cars?
Melissa, do you have that?
I keep up with the county part. I have no idea how many the sheriff had total, a bunch.
Mikey's counting on his fingers.
I mean, I can get it, but I
Mike's
don't
gonna need
have
an
it.
extra hand or two to do all the count.
When we issue.
And then what's his capital outlay for vehicle equipment?
A lot of times that's an upfit to add lights, sirens, safety equipment, striping, those kind of things.
This may not be an accurate answer,
Close.
but I will get it to whoever. I'm counting in my head 16 fleet cars
16 cars
as of
total,
right now.
No, 16 fleet cars.
Leased cars.
Leased car.
lease cars.
You got some others besides leased cars?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know. Maybe, this may be 3 years ago when I think it was in the 30s.
The numbers.
I think the sheriff's requesting 8 additional leased vehicles this year. Those 8 will complete the cycle, and all of the sheriff's vehicles, other than specialty vehicles, will be leased vehicles at that point in time.
Are you saying that those 8 would replace owned cars?
Yeah,
Or these would be additional?
no, they would replace the owned 6-7-year-old cars that have, you know, hundreds of thousands of miles.
Do we? You just said they had 30.
They have a total of 30-some vehicles, but at one
So
time.
he said 16, so that's another.
There's 16 leased,
There's 16 on
and
the
which is included in the 30.
Okay.
But there's also 8 that it would be replaced, so that brings you up to 24. And there's usually specialized vehicles. Yeah,
Not-
for the sheriff's
not
office.
Other than patrol.
Do we have a estimated cost on how much the owned vehicles are costing us per year? Would it justify? Would a new lease vehicle be justified by how much we're paying to keep it upkeep?
Well, I think the
vehicle repair service. that is that on everything or just the cars we own?
That's on everything. They'll do everything.
That's on the fleet cars and police cars too.
Something major happened with the fleet car. It's my understanding they're supposed to.
Because it's
Process that I think.
and not even major, it's oil changes and everything. We're trying to direct everyone to go through that process with fleet management system with all of our cars, to be quite honest, whether they're owned or leased.
Police,
I think when it comes to the sheriff's office, to answer your question, I think what it comes down to is reliability. It's not so much about cost on, it's if there's an emergency at X address, is that car gonna break down driving to X address? Is it roadworthy and capable of doing this?
Because this figure changed from 65,000 to 55,000. Vehicle service and repairs.
For the manager's recommendation, it did. And the reason that I changed that to 55,000 is if the board approves the 8 cars. Theoretically, you're gonna have, the sheriff's office will have 24 leased vehicles that are all within 3 years old. And, you know, I'm not gonna say low mileage, but it's not the same mileage that we've seen in years past. So theoretically, there should be, and with enterprise directing and controlling the repair costs, there should be less cost associated with those repairs.
Are these 8 cars, are they going on the road, so to speak? When I say that, I'm talking about patrol units, or are they the ones that are gonna be, that somebody drives home from the house?
Well, I think that's a sheriff's discretion.
In the manager's recommendation, did you recommend the 8?
Yes, it's later on.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
we'll get to that later on. There's a vehicle lease program to that.
Alright.
And you can see, motor fuel was increased to 110,000.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, detention center.
is there a new personnel there to explain that? Increase in salary? That's 11.5%. I don't see an attachment. Maybe I have to look people up.
It looks like there's one for patrol.
under the detention center, we had fuel costs going to, what you tell me, from 80 to 100.
110.
But then you have motor fuel costs under the detention center. Is that not figured in to the 110 or whatever?
No, they operate separately.
Okay.
I see one sergeant patrol, but I didn't see anything for detention center. %11.5%.
Down at the bottom of your sheet, you have fuel, $10,000. So what is the difference between fuel and motor fuel and what we're doing with reserve?
They're different. They're treated as different departments.
Well, under the same department, under the detention center, you got fuel and you got motor fuel. So what is the other fuel?
I can hear you. for the generator.
So it takes $10,000 worth of fuel for the generator. I don't know how much it runs a month.
911 runs weekly.
And we got filled up.
Mine comes on once a week too, but it don't take $10,000 to run it. I know it's a different generator and all 9 yards, but you see what I'm saying? It's confusing to me when you got motor fuels, you got fuel. But anyway. It's fine.
And lodging and meals.
Yeah, so from time to time, they have to transport people, they may have to stay. There's also conventions, trainings that they have to attend.
The sheriff just had to go to the coast for training.
So moving on to school resource officers.
You didn't answer my question about person.
So if you look, I don't remember, Commissioner Ostriker, what the difference was. Yeah, between the total up for the salary study, but I can tell you at the average for the salary study, this comes in about $20,000 more. I don't remember if the sheriff on average received more than, or the detention center received more than the average across the county, but for the average across the county, for the average across the county, it's about $20,000 more than what the average was for the county.
So there's no, you don't believe there's an additional personnel request?
Not given that it's only $20,000.
Well, no, it's.
Is there an additional person for detention?
No, that's my knowledge. I'll ask.
I mean, this, it went up 90,000, which is 11.5%.
Right.
So 90,000 probably does include a person, but 11.5 is more than I thought the salary study. But it could, I guess, with that. Because the sheriff's department went up 12.3%. But there is a person, a new person included in that. Apparently. Let's see a requisition.
Okay, for detention. On average, well, detention looks like it's about the county average. Which is 7%, 7 to 9%. And it looks like it's coming in at about 9%. So
It's coming in at 11.3%.
now I'm talking about the salary stuff. When you look at the salary stuff, it looks like it's coming in between 7 and 9%, which is the average for the county.
Right.
So it does look like that there's some additional money set aside in there. It's
Confession.
okay.
Typo?
Should have been 810. The salary should be 810. $5.99. So I would make a note and fix the detention center salary and benefits because they're all off from what they should have been.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
I'm just glad I caught it.
I'm-
Moving on to school resource officer.
How many schools have resource officers?
The high school and middle school, and we have one officer that's assigned to elementary school, who spends half a day at each school throughout the week. So all four schools have an officer there, but the elementary school, they share the floor school, we share one office. Like today, she may be at north and south. Tomorrow, she'll do Oakwood, Stone Creek. Next day, she'll flip flop to two. Next day, she'll flop.
We're a small county, but this is beginning to get scary. Beginning to get scary. All right, thanks for the information.
Commissioner Massey,
My name's Brian.
Commissioner Vernon. This again has been a concern, and I think that's why it's important that we have a meeting with the school board. Now, we can raise some of these issues. School board can pay for other officers. They have the money. And it's, you know, like I said, the way things are going now, we really need to either decide that we want to try to protect them all or not do anything. But that's not our decision. We need to have this meeting with the school board.
Speaking of
So-
which,
Yes, I received an email, we covered at the end of the meeting. I've received an email from the superintendent that outlined some dates in June that their staff would not be able to meet, but they are open to having a meeting one evening during June, and we'll talk about dates for that at the end of this week.
I agree with you 100%. It's getting scary. And it's my understanding the one that just happened, the resource officer wasn't at that school that day. And, yeah, you know, I know it's a tax dollar.
Yeah.
But our kids are worth the tax dollars. Thank you, sorry.
Is the SRO schedule available for the public? Okay, good, sir. Good.
Absolutely not. There are 3 people that see that schedule.
Good.
That's myself, Captain, and SRO.
Good. Excellent. And it's not always the same day.
No, sir. Very consistent.
It's randomized.
Yes, sir.
So all we gotta do is gotta have, look.
That's right.
Well, yeah, all you gotta do is get in ahead of these guys and they. Are they looking necessary?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they're running off it. Ain't good. Not watching.
So moving on to 911 communications.
And this one should be self-evident because he's got a list of everything outside of it, exactly what he's supposedly gonna spend the money for, which is exactly what BJ did, which is what it should be.
Is this a worksheet that all departments have furnished, or is this,
That's down.
that was him on?
But it could
Might
be,
be a heck of a great template.
it would be.
Actually, it is a great template.
It certainly is.
It would be. It- Even has small tools and equipment.
You okay?
It does not. I mean, you-
I think we need to know what kind of small tools.
Because he puts a sign.
Some people need to get their head of it, so.
Move on, no question.
Coroner, medical examiner. Emergency management.
Question.
Do we
on
already go by
building
building
inspectors
inspectors?
is he?
Yeah.
Is he gonna retire anytime soon?
We're not in building inspection.
Passed.
Well, you
Just
Oh.
passed.
I'm
You
sorry.
just went one over.
That's personnel,
Okay, I was just,
but I do expect some changes in that.
okay,
And I'll talk to the board more about those changes, as we move through the process.
I apologize, I forgot,
No worries.
can't do that. I did have a question on 911. Why that is less? There a reason?
All of those.
No, there shouldn't be, you got salary increases. Maybe I was wrong, but
No, it is just less one.
yep.
Damn, we gotta get some of that money back.
Any other questions on building inspection? Coroner, medical examiner.
Are these names of people that have to have examinations or coroners have to do some special reports listed on this page?
Someone died.
Well, they might be contracts, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's contract.
I believe those are the actual medical examiners themselves.
Okay.
Keith Harris is a veteran examiner out of Rockingham County.
Emergency management.
Another flat motor fuel, is that,
Um,
one would indicate there's probably not a lot of
No, that's fine with emergency.
I don't know if your book has it or not. Mine has a sheet out of place there. It has a corporate extension sheet is in between. In the middle of the emergency management and.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's okay. I just-
What have you done?
he's got the special book.
Yeah, I got the special book.
Sure.
I thought it was an extra sheet that doesn't go with the emergency management or emergency medical services.
Just making sure.
It's
we're on the page.
corporate extension, so you may not have it in yours.
You got the short bus.
There you go. So that would come late.
You gonna bring back some aspirin for headache?
I mean, more than.
Go to the store.
So as we move past emergency management to EMS services, it may be a good time to take a break. If you'd like to, Mr. Chairman.
5 minutes, I'll take a break.
Yep.
Take a 5-minute break. All right, we're going back to the budget again, Mr. Miller, if you continue, please.
So, good Commissioners, we have the emergency medical services. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about EMS.
Yep.
Yes, year to date, their gas track's perfect. It's good. We've already adjusted that.
Thank y'all.
The gas,
Yes,
the motor fuel,
motor fuel,
the
yes.
57 is correct, or sorry,
No, I think I put,
60.
that's right.
How about
60.
travel?
Currently,
How about travel? It's down from 2,500.
So is there regular fuel, like generator fuel for that? At 1,500?
fuel for, probably more like fuel for vehicles, like. Yes, it's generator fuel.
Huh?
Generator fuel.
But it says 1,500. That one, and then you got 60 grand up there.
I think that fuel's a generator.
Generator.
That's what I'm asking. Is that
fuel
generator
is probably a
$1,500
generator fuel.
for generator?
Yes, sir. Capital outlay,
Furniture.
Oh, they need,
So in the EMS department,
it's in.
has living quarters, correct? So with their living quarters, they badly need to replace the furniture in those sleeping areas for the staff. And they can't do it. They don't need to buy furniture from Walmart. They need to buy good quality. They need to buy good quality furniture designed for these kinds of operations. So having said that, yes, that's what your capital outlay is for.
and that furniture's twice as expensive as your regular furniture. But it's got, the mechanisms are better, the bedding is better. It's just, when we outfitted our fire station, we bought that just so it wouldn't wear out next week.
How many bedrooms they have?
I think there's 6 or 8. I think 6 or 8.
Just a general question, because I had to sleep there one night. I think I slept on the sofa.
Yeah, they're quickly running out of room. I know when we added that other peak time ambulance, it really put them in a difficult situation as far as space was concerned.
Training. Down from 9,500. Is that appropriate? Did I miss that?
They go through. I'm not sure. I'm not-
Be that some of their training could be that it's on different cycles, it may last for 2 years and.
That's right. I mean, they do a lot of training with PCC. And they do trainings and cycles. They have specific trainings that they plan on sending supervisors to at certain times. So it may be just none of those are being planned for right now. So I don't know that it's, I'll check on it.
I mean, we've had this discussion about how important training is, certainly with the software, and I would think that these people, holy smokes, I sure want best trained personnel we can have.
Let me reassure you, they have a regularly scheduled training regimen that it's required by Barry and by Jason for all employees to attend. Employees attend, there's a certified instructor that teaches those courses. I think those same instructors teach some of the fire department folks.
Those instructors are free? I mean,
They're provided through PCC.
okay.
PCC handles that educational component.
Sometimes it's nothing, sometimes they have to pay, depending on which course.
Nothing in life is truly free. We fund PCC at the tune of $400 and some thousand this year. So it's an agreement we have.
I just want to make sure that that's not a typo or an overlooked item.
No, I'll check. He very well could be, but I'll check.
And what about new equipment for them? Is that later on we're going to see, or
Well,
this will be the first damn year I've ever seen that they haven't asked for 7 new ambulances.
I don't think.
I did already get one.
Mhm. And we can't, right now, the ambulances are so difficult to get. The ones that were approved, we're having even a hard time getting those.
That it?
What jumped from the initial sheet here at 2.336 to 2.6? What's the salaries it looks like? Personnel request. Nope. What's that jump?
Salaries.
I know, but why was it 1.314 and now it's 1.526?
It was 1290, now it's 1526.
I'm talking about on the very first sheet.
For emergency medical services, are you looking at the sheet in the book?
I'm looking at the one you gave us last week. It's a 1.314,737, and now I'm just saying, why is this?
They didn't have the salary, the benefits and FICA and benefits calculated correctly.
And the salary wasn't calculated correct. Thank you.
That it?
No, animal control. There is a request for animal control for a vehicle, and we'll talk about that later on when we get to that section of the budget.
So what was the jump in office supplies requested versus the $1,000 that planning projecting?
Office supplies.
Small tools.
Above small tools.
That was his request. He
Yeah.
lowered it.
What was that?
Why he lowered it $1,000?
Why, I know why Brian wanted 1,000. Why did they request over 6,000? You know? What was in that?
But he requested 1,000. That's the one you're talking about?
No,
The line above it,
office supply, it's a 6,050.
one mighty big stapler.
I'm in a different department.
Need to get back.
And he didn't supply any
No details.
detail. I can ask him.
Just want to know if we're missing something. You could not pay me this job.
And that's the end of that section, commissioners. If you want to wrap up now.
We need to, gentlemen, we need to decide when you want to have the next meeting. Calendar out.
Commissioners, I will say that Commissioner Dickerson has requested that we have the meetings either early or late. So he can attend one of those.
About the 16th on Thursday.
2 weeks.
All right, go back to the night.
About the 7th.
I don't think we want to wait till the 16th because there might be a lot of
Okay, go back.
department heads we might want to see and talk to, and then
Do you want to go back to the night,
I can't do it in the evening.
8 o'clock?
How about the 7th?
So,
got the meeting Monday, the 6th.
you do it late on Tuesday.
Or 10 o'clock on 7th.
I can't do 10 o'clock on the 7th.
2 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock's fine.
8 o'clock AM.
No, 8 o'clock at night.
I was talking about the morning.
Well, I won't be here at Tuesday. We can have a meeting, but I won't be here.
Okay.
I've
that's
got to
fine.
work. Some of us have to work. Uh-oh. So I work all day on Tuesday. There's a tied up day.
Well,
Is that what we're losing? The night's fine. I don't.
You want to do the 8th? I don't care if you do the 8th. Mondays and Tuesdays are my busy day.
But you.
I'm fine on the 8th.
at 10 AM. I can't do it Wednesday night or Thursday, night.
Yeah, we'll do 10 if that's what y'all want to do.
10 AM.
What's wrong with 8 AM? Then that would give John the opportunity to be here.
How about 9 AM?
You got to get your ears.
Can't you tell?
So what time do y'all want on the Wednesday? I mean, I'm gonna juggle my schedule. on
9
Wednesday.
o'clock.
9 o'clock.
It's good with me.
Here.
Is somebody
You do what you want.
seeing if the library is
Let me
available?
go ask them then.
I'll try to do that.
There's also another day, commissioners, there's also another date you need to consider, and that's an evening meeting with the Board of Education. The dates they cannot meet are June 2nd, 6th, 20th, and 27th.
What are those days? Again?
2nd, 6th, 20th, and 27th.
So they essentially can't meet on Mondays. I think we need to get them as early as we can to make sure that advance answered our questions. Have the questions been sent to them? The new questions that we sent to you, to whomever, the Board of
Find
Education?
out. I don't know who we reach out to. Do we send it to the chairman of the board?
So they've not.
Connie,
How many different sets of questions did you receive from?
just the 8.
From me.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we were expecting some.
Yeah,
To
if
keep
anyone else
collecting
has
some-
questions, we can type them or add them today and then we'll send them to him and let him know about the date we agreed upon or whatever.
So you got about 4.
Got your call from before.
I got it.
I will send you mine this evening.
Okay. And I'll send the email to the chairman of their board, Connie and superintendent.
Do you want to do a meeting with them Tuesday night
The 7th,
at 7?
on the 7th,
On the 7th at 7.
it's okay with me.
Huh?
Okay with me.
Okay.
That work for you, then?
And where is this gonna be?
You say 7 o'clock at night?
Here,
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday's good at 9 here.
What?
Wednesday is good for 9.
Thank you.
and what time is the meeting? 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock on the 7th.
7 o'clock on the 7th.
Where? Here?
Yes.
Right here.
Here.
Here. Both meetings, we got one on the 7th and one on the 8th, and they'll be here in this room.
We got one on the 6th too, correct?
Yeah, we got a regular commission meetings. that
6th,
morning.
7th, and 8th.
Yes.
6th, 7th, and 8th, you got me.
Okay.
The school board meeting will be, we'll meet with them at 7 o'clock here at the library on the 7th. And then we will have another budget meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 8th. And we have our regular commissioner meeting at
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock on
Oh,
the 6th. Anything else to come up? If not, we'll recess this meeting to the 6th. Whatever day it
To the
was.
8th,
7th.
the 8th at 9
8th.
o'clock.
Yeah, we'll recess this meeting until the 8th. 9 o'clock. Thank you, appreciate it.